welcome back to my channel. Danny here, coming to you from the den. Today I have a special guest. This is my wife, Omi.
Hi, and today we're going to be talking about the Mandalorian Season 2 premiere.
Yes, just to kind of give you all a little bit of a recap leading up to the season premiere. Where did we leave off?
The Mandalorian does take place approximately 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Yep, we have the story of the Mandalorian taking place. This is after the siege of Mandalore. The Mandalorians are scattered throughout the galaxy. But in season 1, we have Din Djarin, who is the Mando. He's hired for a bounty, and when he goes to complete the job, it turns out that is this cute little baby Yoda. That leads them on their adventure. Everyone's coming after them. At the end of season 1, his mission was to take Baby Yoda and bring him back to his kind. Now, when they told him back to his kind, did they mean other little Baby Yodas that are floating around, or is it the Jedi?
Right,
So,
right. I like the initial introduction of episode 1 in season 2. It sort of brings us back to this, idea that, the show is about these two characters, the relationship between these two characters. I like the way they set it up, where it's Mando and Baby Yoda were just walking side by side, and Baby Yoda in the little floating capsule.
yeah.
A very father-son relationship, which I liked.
So Mandalorian has this feel. It's almost like a genre within a genre,
Right.
which is pretty cool.
That's what I like about the Mandalorian. It's sort of like its own little niche in the Star Wars universe, and you can tell it's part of the Star Wars universe. Just right in the beginning, showing that shot of those two walking through this graffiti-covered town, which was great for me because I'm an artist, and I actually grew up in the Bronx, where graffiti was very prominent, and just seeing that just like hooked me right away. And I was just looking at all the little details, the stormtroopers on the wall, and there was even this imagery of like what looked to be a C-3PO.
Yeah.
That was really cool. And we sort of have a theory.
Yeah, there's a running theory of who may have tagged up some of these walls.
Correct, yep. Sabine from Star Wars Rebel. We feel like she could have passed through this town and done all this graffiti.
Just like tagged it up.
Yeah, totally. And that would be cool because she's a Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So that would sort of...
Right. So there is that connection there. We know she's still around. She fought in the Battle of Endor. According to Rebels, she went off on some other mission. We don't know. But we might see how this connects to Mandalorian. There's been some rumors about the character. There's been some rumors about who may be playing the character, but we'll talk about that in further detail when we get to those episodes. This episode called The Marshal, right? And we'll kind of get to the Marshal in a bit, but the way it opens up is with Mando and Baby Yoda just coming down this street, and it's dark, and all you see is them coming out of the darkness into the light. But they're surrounded by these red eyes, right? Which is sort of like a foreshadowing, right?
Right, they're being watched. Yeah, that was pretty cool. It's sort of like, walking through this decay. And then the sort of second way of how they showed them walking through town is when they were walking in Tatooine and Mos Pelgos.
Yeah, Mos Pelgos. That was the second time that they kind of walk into the town. Right. The gunslinger.
Right, and so it brings that back to that sort of cowboy theme. And the music was playing, very reminiscent of those spaghetti westerns that we were talking about.
When he goes into the fighting pit, I thought it was a little funny. Sometimes these episodes of Mandalorian has this little quirkiness to it. But they go into the fighting pits, and we see the two Gamorreans just fighting. I don't know what happened to them. They look very anorexic. I remember the Gamorreans being like these very husky, fat-looking pig people, and these guys look skinny, so they were starving them. But there was this one funny scene when the fight broke out.
Yeah, right. One of the Gamorreans jumps out of the arena and lands on the table, tries to land on
jumps
Mando.
Off the ring.
Right, and so he lands on the table instead, and that just brought me back to the WWF days.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was so funny.
Back in the wrestling.
Right.
And, it was almost like a Nacho Libre moment.
Yeah.
It was like an epic fail.
Right.
But it was great. It was funny. It was entertaining. You get Mando getting that information that he wanted after they try to steal his his Beskar armor. Then he kind of leaves the guy up to hang, right?
Right.
He's like, "Oh, I promise you won't die by my hands."
Yeah, which was true. He didn't die by his hands. Spoiler alert. But
Right.
yeah, he ended up leading him to the red-eyed creatures that
Yeah.
we saw in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. And you know what? Let's not forget about Baby Yoda.
Those meme moments,
Those
right?
meme moments, you know, those sort of close-up shots that they do of Baby Yoda's face and his reactions are hilarious because I could already see the memes happening on the internet. And one of my favorite ones was when the fight broke out and then he
Yes.
hides in his capsule, like the capsule closes. He's like,
Yeah, he's like, "Yo, it's about to go down." No, so that was great. That was really funny moment. You know, quarantine memes that'll come out of that one little scene.
Yeah.
Mando finds out that there's another Mandalorian down in Tatooine. He lands on Tatooine, runs into Amy Sedaris' character, which can't even remember her name anymore. But you know, she sees Baby Yoda and she reacted the same way we all would. We're like, "Thank the Force."
I love that moment because again, it you know, shows off all these different personalities from the
Right.
characters within the show, and you know that sort of quirky character. You need that. You need that in a show like this, and so
You see her 3 little stooge robots. Um,
yeah, you know, and just sort of that line, "Thank the Force," like you know, her reaction seeing Baby Yoda. That's how we feel.
right.
So that was great.
What was also interesting was Mando's reaction to the droids. You know, last season he didn't want them anywhere near his ship, and this season he was like, "Oh, it's alright." So you can see his change of heart, especially with the way season 1 ended, with IG-11 sacrificing itself to save Mando, to save Baby Yoda and gang. So you kind of see that character growth, that character progression.
Well, after that, he actually goes to Mos Pelgos, right?
Right.
And that's when he starts walking through that town, and that's when we start thinking about this.
Yeah, he's on his little speeder, and he's just coming in slowly. You see the camera just kind of coming from behind.
Right.
He's going into town.
Yeah.
He's looking at the townsfolk, which one of them was Sam Witwer. You guys will know him as Starkiller from the Star Wars Unleashed video games, and he's also the voice of Darth Maul. So that was a cool little cameo.
And then when Mando gets to the bar.
Yeah.
So another sort of Western, you know.
Yeah.
Theme there. He goes to the bar looking for trouble, kind of thing, right?
Right. Well, trouble's looking for him, right?
Trouble's looking for him.
So yeah, he leaves his his speeder. You know, he leaves a little Baby Yoda behind.
Yeah.
Which is what's funny to me is like he goes into the bar or the cantina. And all of a sudden, you see little Baby Yoda peeking his head out.
Another meme moment.
Oh, another meme moment. But it's like, how did he jump off the bag, right?
Right.
He used the Force.
Yeah. We eventually meet the Marshal.
Right.
And
So
he
Mando's
comes
asking
in-
about the Mandalorian, right?
And he comes out with his Mando suit, which turns out to be...
One thing I do want to point out, when we see the Marshal wearing Boba Fett's armor, right? My first impression was like, man, Boba Fett lost a lot of weight. It was like, what's going on with everyone?
I thought it was a woman. I thought it was a girl underneath. I'm like, oh, okay, so that's a new twist.
Yeah, so the character of the Marshal was played by Timothy Oliphant, right? And he has this swagger about him. A funny moment when he comes up to the door
and he's sort of
he's
leaning.
just there leaning, and you know the helmet's looking like a bobblehead. It was a funny moment
When he eventually takes off Boba Fett's
oh yeah, he's like, oh, let's go have a drink.
Right.
And I think, you know, it's funny because maybe Mando thought it was a test. We're like, oh, he's testing me because he know I'm not taking my helmet off. So when he sees him sit down, he has his absinthe, right? Was that what it was?
I don't know. Looked like Hypnotic.
Hypnotic, that's what it was. He pulled out his bottle of Hypnotic and he's like, oh, have a seat, let's have a drink. And he takes off his helmet. The shot was from behind, but you see Mando and he was just like, he was taken off guard. He was like, wait a minute, what is this? Like, you ain't Mandalorian.
This is not the way.
This isn't the way.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. And what's cool, you know what? Yeah, let's talk about that. Sort of the Mando's expressions and reactions, even though he has a helmet on.
Right.
But the way the character, you know, portrays him with the suit, and it's so good. It's like, you know, subtle sort of movements that you know how he's feeling.
Exactly.
And that's pretty cool. I like that. I appreciate that.
It comes through. The performance comes through.
I love that.
You know, and that's the part about good writing, good acting. You know, when you have great production, you'll be able to see the emotions. You know, the marshal takes off his helmet. Mando's taking off guard. His immediate response to that is, "You need to take that off.
Right.
Take it off."
Right. Like, sort of, it was such a disrespectful thing for him to do. And yeah, it's interesting how sort of like that's not the way, you know. So because it's not the way, I'm gonna need you to correct that and give that back to me. You know, the armor. And so again, it brings us back to the Mandalorian culture and how proud they are and how you know honorable they take things, right?
Yeah.
So
what do you think of how Cobb Vanth got the armor? A little bit about the backstory.
Oh, so he got it through the Jawas.
The Jawas.
Yeah, that's right, through the Jawas, which they found him roaming around the desert. He was dehydrated because he had just left the town, right?
Yeah, with his ice cream maker.
Right.
Yeah, so you know, his town got taken over by the mining collective.
Right.
And you know, this was after the fall of the Empire, so all hell was breaking loose. It got chaotic. He grabbed the ice cream maker and he lucked out.
The crystals? What do you...
Yeah, some type of crystals.
Yeah.
But he lucked out because then the Jawas run into him and
to trade.
They went head over heels over the crystals.
Yeah, and so he traded the crystals for the Boba Fett armor, and that's how he came to obtain that.
Yeah.
And he came back into town. And,
he rode back into town with his worn armor. But you know, he took out the mining collective. He got shot at. It was a deflection. So it goes to show that the armor is Beskar. Right?
So that was a really interesting sort of backstory, you know, sort of the journey of the armor.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're kind of following the journey of this armor, which I'm sure is going to lead somewhere else further down the road, especially with the little cameo we got at the end of the episode, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later. After Vanth tells his story, Mando is like, that doesn't belong to you, give it up. And
they're about to throw down.
Yeah, they're about to throw down, and the Marshal is like, you know, I first thought it was going to be one of us, but then I saw you with, you know, the little baby, and little baby Yoda was by the pot, you know, the little jar.
Another me moment.
Another me moment. They're about to throw down. He's like, oh, right here, let's go. You see the shot from behind where you see the holster and the gun. And then all of a sudden we have a stampede.
Right. You hear all the sort of noise happening outside of the cantina. And then it turns out to be
a crate dragon.
A
crate dragon.
Right.
Which we've seen in A New Hope. Well, at least the skeleton.
The skeleton, that's right. With C-3PO walking through the desert.
Yeah, through the Dune Sea.
Yeah.
So we actually get a living, breathing crate dragon just roaming through the town, and it was another funny moment. What can I say? It went straight for the bantha. You know, the bantha didn't even move.
Poor banthas.
And
Cobb Vanth asked the Mandalorian to help him kill.
Yeah, so he makes a deal. He's like, listen, you want the armor? I'll give it to you. It served its purpose. It helped me liberate the town, but it's all yours if you help me defeat the crate dragon. So Mando agreed. You know, he's an honorable dude. What else would he do? So they went off on this expedition to hunt down a giant dragon creature thing. And then they run into the Tusken Raiders, the Sand People.
Right. I do want to point out sort of, you know, this idea of the Cobb Vanth's character and his personality by saying, hey, I'm willing to trade give back the armor. that just shows that he does care.
Yeah, there was a sense of honor in him.
Yes.
Which my theory is, and I think this is long term. It might not happen in season 2, but I think we're gonna get a Magnificent Seven type of situation where all the people that Mando has encountered will eventually help him out, and we'll get a little posse.
That could happen. Yes.
We'll get the Seven Samurai, the Magnificent Seven type of scenario, which I'm really hoping that happens, because
that would be very
we're
cool.
getting a really cool introduction to all these different characters, and some characters that'll be coming out soon that we haven't seen yet. So,
and then it brings us to the scene where both the Marshal and the Mandalorians, they're headed off, right? And so they show them on the speeders, right? And so I laughed, I chuckled a little bit, because you see them, I saw a cop amp looking at Mando, and he's on a much bigger speeder.
Yeah.
And I don't know, in my mind, it's sort of like, when guys like just look at each other, sort of like, well, mine's bigger than yours.
My speeder is bigger than yours.
And I had to laugh, because it was funny the way the shot was. It was like both speeders, and his was bigger, and he was just looking at him real smug.
Well, another funny moment to this scene is they're talking to each other, right?
Yeah.
And my thing is, like, these speeders are mad loud. How do they hear each other? I don't see any earpieces, so unless they have some chip implants where they can
Bluetooth
speak.
in the galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're talking through the Force, maybe, who knows? But they're having a conversation, and meantime the speeders are like super loud. Like, how do you hear each other?
Right.
The Marshal was on a pod racer engine. The cockpit was kind of like on the side, and he's riding along, which is a throwback to the Phantom Menace, where Anakin was in that pod racing, and they're kind of going off. It kind of resembled Anakin's old pod racer engine. They meet the Sand People on their way to the Krayt Dragon's cave, right? Because Vanth tells him, "Oh, I know where it lives." So they're gonna go and hunt it down. Meantime, they run into the Sand People. They have this whole interaction with them, which is interesting because the Sand People represent the natives in this Western classic story that we're being told.
What was cool is that Mando started speaking
their language.
Right.
I
was like, oh, that's awesome.
And prior to him getting to Mos Pelgos, you see Mando interacting with some Sand People, and in this montage type of scene, he's by a bonfire talking to some Sand People. So another foreshadowing to what was going to come up later on.
And then they're watching the Sarlacc pit. Is that what it's called? The Sarlacc pit?
Yeah. So they're hanging off by the hill
just to see what's up with this Krayt Dragon, and then they see the Sand People, or at least one of them, sort of tie in a bantha in front of the pit. And you can already tell what was going to happen. And so he was pretty much leaving the bantha there for bait. And what ended up happening was, after the sand person calls him out,
he's like...
Right, so he calls out the dragon to wake him up, and when he does come out, you would think he'd go for the bantha, but he ended up eating the sand person. So
okay, so the worst part is he could have eaten both.
He could have, but he
needed to make a point.
Yeah.
He had to make a statement that, listen, man, I eat what I want to eat when I want to eat it. And right now, I'm over bantha meat because I just had some. I don't need you to bring me more bantha. So he just swerved right around and went straight for the Tusken Raider.
And they were talking about how one of the reasons, why they even offer the bantha is just to keep the dragon sleeping longer. Right. So,
to extend them from, extend the sleeping period and keep him from coming into town. Another funny thing is that, when Mando was talking to the Tusken Raiders with the Marshal, there's a quick view of one of the Tusken Raiders cleaning the bantha's teeth, prepping him for dinner. Don't you worry, we're gonna take care of you.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, I like that they do these sort of quick shots. If you don't catch it, it's sort of it goes
the
over
humor
your
is
head.
there, but they don't go overboard. They leave it,
it's very subtle.
Subtle, short moments. which is, you know, that Jon Favreau style, right? Like, he directed the episode, he writes it, of course, he's producer, but you see his art direction in this episode.
Yeah.
There was even that one scene where Bantha is speaking about when he got the armor, he goes back into town, he's shooting up the mining collective, and they're all running away. They get into their speeder, they're driving off, and he just rolls out, right? The marshal rolls out, he kind of leans over, shoots the missile, and it was very reminiscent of Iron Man 1.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, with the tank, right?
Yeah, no, I like that. That was a good little...
Yeah, it was like a little nod. At least that's what it resembled. So they realize that they can't trick this thing to come out. So they start making a plan with the Tusken Raiders. Like, listen, we need to all be there. Like, he's coming for us. And then they kind of realize, based on the scale of how big the little bone was next to the little pebbles, they're like, oh, we need more people.
Go back to town.
Yeah, go back to town.
Sort of recruit. They did. They ended up recruiting some of the town folk, and then they get to work. They
so they start setting. They get all these mines. They're bringing them on bantha backs. They're going back to the cave. It's interesting.
Blow him up.
Yeah, it's interesting because when they talk to the townsfolk about, hey, you know, we have a plan to take out the Krayt Dragon, but we're gonna have to work together with the Sand People. You know, everybody was riling up, and it was like, so it's kind of like that old story of, you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And you see the Tusken Raiders coming into town, all single filed, which was pretty cool because they referenced that in the New Hope. Yeah, I think it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he's like, oh, Tusken Raiders walk in single file.
And they showed that,
and we see that. It's interesting to see all these little nods.
Yeah, they always bring it back.
Yeah.
You know, to the sort of original
trilogy. Yes.
I like that.
Yeah.
So they're setting up, and then what they end up doing is digging these holes in front of the Sarlacc pit. And putting the mines, the bombs there, the explosives, lure out the dragon.
They're trying to set a trap.
Right. It's a trap.
It's our trap.
And they bury the explosives so that when they lure them out, they can.
Because the underbelly is the soft part.
Right, that's it. Yeah, the soft part.
At least that was the theory.
His weak spot, right.
They go, you hear the Tusken Raiders again. And, you know.
And they're running.
Yeah, they're running. The creature is coming out. They're shooting at it with the spears. And
with the spears
the ropes.
tied to the ropes, right?
Yeah, so they're trying to, like, lure it out. And... you know, the Krayt Dragon gets pissed, you know, so he starts retreating. I think at that moment, it starts spewing acid.
Yeah, that caught me off guard. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, so this liquid acid is coming out. The messed up thing is, it was mostly the Sand People that were getting disintegrated.
Pretty much.
Like, you didn't see any of the other humans or the miners. It was the Tusken Raiders. This is still a PG-13 show.
And then they finally show Mando and Cobb Vanth working together, right? So they take off.
Yeah, you have that really cool moment. They're flying off together.
Yeah, they're flying off together, fighting the Krayt Dragon.
So Mando had the idea of, listen, I have a plan. Marshall just bounds, you know, he hits the jetpack and he flies off, which is cool because the jetpack has the scar from when Han Solo hit it and Boba Fett goes off flying and he goes into the Sarlacc pit and, you know, gets eaten alive. Eaten alive, you're right. So Mando grabs the bantha that has all the explosives. He has the detonator. He has a plan. The bantha tries to run away, but he grabs it with one hand and he's holding it down because Mando is stronger than a bantha. Or the bantha was just too lazy to run away. Like, it realized, like, listen,
this is it.
It's over. I made an attempt, and that was the best of my effort. Might as well stick around. So the Krayt Dragon comes and swallows them whole.
Yep, swallows them whole, along with the explosive, and you see Cobb Vanth's face, sort of like, oh, he sacrificed himself,
right?
You know, and then it shows the Krayt Dragon. He retreats, doesn't he?
Yeah, the Krayt Dragon went underground.
Yeah, he retreats.
which, really quick, another funny moment was when they detonate the explosion under the belly, right? And they thought the dragon was done for. Like, oh, we got it. We detonated the bombs underneath him. And there was this pause. And all of a sudden, the Krayt dragon just pops out of the mountain, and he's like, "Surprise! I'm here!" And that's when he starts spewing the acid and taking out the Tusken Raiders. It was just like, yeah, it ain't over yet. No. It's not yet. Sort of like another reference to a Jon Favreau film where Mando goes inside the Krayt dragon, just like Iron Man did in Avengers with the Leviathans. He was like, flew right inside the mouth of the beast and blew it up from the inside. And Mando pretty much did the same thing. You know, you see him using his electric gun to escape. He's flying out, and you see the close-up of the detonator. And
right. And you even see, they show a shot of Mando with the acid dripping off of him. Yeah. But that shows the armor is a strong armor.
Right, so the Beskar armor is acid-proof, which then means that the theory that Boba Fett survived the Sarlacc pit is accurate. Because the armor survived. Yep. You know, we see the armor. If the armor survived, Boba must have survived. Absolutely. You know, I'm hoping they explain that, they talk about that. Even though the Beskar armor is only certain parts and the rest of the outfit is cloth. But we'll see. I don't know. Maybe there's Beskar within the fiber of the cloth material. Yeah, so Mando survived, right? You see the acid dripping, him and his new best friend, you know, Cobb Vanth, are talking, gives him the armor back.
Right. That was cool. That was sort of like a good closure kind of thing, right?
So after they defeat the Krayt dragon, right, we see this brief moment of the Tusken Raiders digging into the meat, right? They're like digging. But the camera pans over to Mando, and you see this boulder-sized piece of meat.
On the back
of the speeder. Yeah, it was in the back of the speeder. And it's like, oh, him and Baby Yoda's gonna have steak for dinner.
Oh, wow, for days, too.
For days.
It was huge.
Yeah.
But then they also pan back to one of the raiders, you know, digging through the carcass, right?
Yeah.
And they find this
pearl.
They find this pearl.
Yeah.
And, you know, didn't they, in the last season, didn't the Jawas find some
the egg? It was the egg.
Yeah, so it
from the Mudhorn.
Yeah, it reminded me of that, sort of like, you know, these people, you know, taking these treasures for themselves. Yeah. You know, sort of maybe trophies even.
Yeah, the simple things in life.
Simple things, right. So I thought that was pretty cool.
So everybody lived happily ever after. You know, the Tusken Raiders got their pearl. The Marshal was able to liberate his town from the Krayt dragon. Mando got...
And even from the Sand People, like, they made an agreement that they wouldn't come in and raid. Win-win-win.
Yeah, win-win-win. It was pretty clean. It was a pretty clean outcome.
Yeah.
But you see Mando off on his speeder, is going off at the distance. Again, camera's panning out. And you see this mysterious figure from behind.
Right, from behind. That's right. And he looks to be dressed in the Raiders' outfit, right? Their clothing.
He even had the rifle.
That's right.
And the staff.
That's right. And when he turns around, you see that it is
Temuera Morrison, who could potentially be playing Boba Fett. There's been rumors that Boba Fett would make an appearance in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
But there might be some other theories.
Right, and he had a scar.
Yeah, he had the scar going on.
Yeah, I wonder if that was from the acid.
Yeah, it could have been from the acid. Maybe some battles he fought. He's probably been hiding out since the Empire fell. Maybe Boba went into hiding.
Right.
People probably connected him to the Empire. I don't know, but he's just hiding out.
Maybe he was hiding out with the Sand People.
Maybe he is hiding out with the Sand People. Yeah. That's what we'll need to see.
We'll see.
How likely do you think it is Boba Fett?
Why not? That would be great, you know, to tie in everything, you know, and sort of give us another backstory of how the armor was found and how he lost it actually.
Yeah.
Right? And so sort of that continuation of the armor story and just to see what he's been up to.
Right.
And sort of even just pleasing the fans, like, hey, he's Boba coming back. Yeah. So that would be cool.
Will he survive? I don't know.
Right.
we'll see. It could totally be Boba Fett. Again, it would be fan service.
Right.
There'll be that connection. You know, Boba is a clone of Jango Fett, so there's also that connection to Baby Yoda. You know, there's that whole theory where Baby Yoda could potentially be a clone, or they're trying to clone Baby Yoda.
Like the genetic code being taken to recreate and sort of clone. That's right.
Yeah, so you know, there's a lot of connections to Boba Fett, not just that he's wearing Mandalorian armor. You know, another theory is, what if it's a clone trooper? What if it's one of those clone troopers that went into hiding? I don't know if it is Rex. In the Rebels cartoon, Rex looked much older. He had the white beard going on. You know, he could have shaved, and maybe in the live action universe, this is how old he actually looks. Overall, what did you think of the episode? What do you think of this as a season premiere?
I thought it was a great premiere, you know. From the very beginning, the introduction of the two main characters, you know, that father-son-like relationship, and walking through that decayed town with the graffiti, sort of setting up the episode for us, you know, like foreshadowing, like them walking through another town. Like, it was just, okay, it's about them, it's about their journey, and all these different characters that they have to, you know, meet through, you know, to get to the end point. I loved it, you know, bringing us right back to you know what the show is about. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great season premiere.
Yeah, it definitely set the tone, it set the mood for what this season is going to be about. It's reminding us all that, hey, in essence, this is an old school spaghetti western show or genre within Star Wars. As a season premiere, that's what you want. That's what you need. You know, remind you what came in season 1, but also set up what's to come ahead in season 2.
Right.
So while the story didn't get pushed along completely, or the overall plot didn't get moved forward too much, we did get some introductions. We got some introductions to some new characters. They introduced Boba Fett, or what we believe to be Boba Fett. The armor. What is going to happen with the armor? Boba might not wear it again. Will they outfit that armor for Baby Yoda? You know, will Baby Yoda, you know, take the creed of the Mandalorian, and we'll see little Baby Yoda rocking, you know, Boba Fett's armor? I don't know. I mean,
and you know, even talking about like the introduction of new characters, you know, even bringing back some characters from season 1. You know, I feel like it's all going to tie in at the end, like all those people that he's met along this journey, like you said. So enjoyable episode. I would definitely recommend. Watch it twice, 3 times.
Yeah, we'll watch it again before the next episode just to kind of freshen up. That's pretty much it. So we'll continue giving our impressions after every episode of The Mandalorian. So stick around. Please come back and watch us. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have fun with us. I hope you laugh. You know, that's the whole point of, you know, having these conversations, watching these shows, enjoying them together, expressing and sharing our love for Star Wars and our appreciation for The Mandalorian. What was your favorite part of the episode? Did it move the story along for you? Feel free to leave a comment below and let us know what you enjoyed about this episode. We'll come back next week with another recap episode of The Mandalorian. So any final thoughts?
It's a great show, and I feel like it's just going to have a great ending, and so we just have to go through the journey with these characters. Amazing work, Mandalorian and cast.
Well, thank you again for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a thumbs up. If you want to stay up to date with our content, feel free to subscribe and hit the notifications bell. Thank you for watching, and that's a wrap.